She told the cops. He pushed me. I want to press charges. I stayed silent. Her story crumbled when my lawyer showed the officer the time-stamped footage from the neighbor's doorbell cam. She didn't know was recording. I, 34 male, am sitting in my living room typing this, while my ex-girlfriend's stuff sits in trash bags by my front door. Still processing what happened 3 days ago. Never thought Melissa, 31, would stoop this low, but here we are. We'd been together for about 2 years. She moved into my townhouse 6 months ago. Things had been rocky lately, mainly because she quit her job 4 months back to focus on her wellness journey and expected me to cover everything, not just rent and utilities, but her yoga classes, organic groceries, supplements, the works. When I suggested she maybe look for part-time work at least, she'd accuse me of not supporting her mental health. The breaking point came last Tuesday. I found out she'd been using my credit card, she had the number for emergencies, to fund her friend Cassie's healing retreat business, basically throwing money at some MLM wellness scam. We're talking $3,200 over 2 months. When I confronted her, she said I was being spiritually closed-minded and that this was an investment in our future prosperity. I told her we were done. Pack your stuff, find somewhere else to live. She laughed, actually laughed and said, "You can't just kick me out, I have rights." I gave her 30 days written notice as required. Thought that would be the end of it. Boy, was I wrong. 3 days ago, Thursday evening around 7 p.m., she started an argument about the notice. Stood in my doorway while I was trying to watch the game, going on about tenant rights and how I was emotionally abusing her by asking her to leave. I got up to go to the kitchen, told her we could discuss it later when she was calmer. That's when she followed me, screaming about how I was dismissing her feelings. I grabbed my keys and headed for the front door, just needed to get out and let her cool down. She rushed in front of me, blocking the door, yelling that I wasn't going to walk away from her. I said, "Melissa, move, I'm going for a drive." She planted herself harder against the door. "No, you're gonna listen to me." I gently tried to move past her, didn't touch her, just tried to squeeze by. She suddenly screamed, "Don't push me," and threw herself backwards, landing on her ass in the doorway. Then, and I swear this was like watching a performance, she started crying and pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police. You assaulted me." I just stood there, didn't say another word, went back to my living room and sat down. She kept screaming, "He pushed me, he attacked me." While on the phone with 911, cops showed up about 15 minutes later. 2 officers. Melissa ran to them immediately, tears streaming, showing them her injured wrist that she apparently hurt when she threw herself down. Going on about how I shoved her, how she's terrified of me, how this isn't the first time I've been violent. The officers separated us. One took her outside, one stayed with me. I stayed completely calm and said, "Officer, I'd like to call my lawyer before I make any statement." He nodded, said that was my right. While Melissa was outside giving her dramatic statement to the other officer, I called my buddy Derek, who's a criminal defense attorney. He said he'd be there in 20 minutes and told me to not say a single word until he arrived. Derek showed up and asked to speak with the officers. Then he dropped the bomb. "Officers, before we proceed, you should know that my client's neighbor has a Ring doorbell that covers the shared walkway and front door area. I'd like to request that footage be reviewed before any arrests are made." Melissa's face went white. She had no idea about my neighbor Tom's doorbell cam. He'd installed it like 2 months ago after some package thefts in the area. The angle perfectly captured my front door and the walkway. The officers said they'd need to get the footage formally, but Derek already had Tom's permission. Tom's a solid dude. Immediately agreed to help when Derek knocked on his door. We all went to Tom's, and he pulled up the footage on his phone. Crystal clear video. It showed everything. Me trying to leave calmly, her blocking the door, me trying to move past without touching her, her dramatically throwing herself backward while screaming. Even caught her checking her phone camera angle before calling 911. The officer reviewing it actually said, "Well, that's interesting." They went back outside to talk to Melissa. I could hear her voice getting higher and more desperate. "That video doesn't show everything. He pushed me before that. The angle is wrong." The officers came back in. The senior one looked at me and said, "Sir, we're not going to be filing any charges against you. However," he looked at Derek, "your client may want to consider filing charges for false reporting." Melissa was given a warning about filing false police reports. She went ballistic, started screaming about how the system protects abusers, how they'd hear from her lawyer, how this was a conspiracy against her. The officers told her to calm down or she'd be arrested for disorderly conduct. She stormed back into my house, slammed the door to the guest room where she'd been staying. Derek stayed after the cops left, told me to document everything, back up all texts, and file for an immediate restraining order in the morning. Also suggested I change the locks the second she's out. That was Thursday night. Friday morning, I filed for the restraining order based on her false accusation and attempt to have me arrested. Judge granted a temporary order requiring her to leave immediately. She was served Friday afternoon. Had to pack her stuff while an officer supervised. The whole time going on about how I'm ruining her life, how she has nowhere to go, how karma would get me. Her stuff is still in bags by my door. She has until tomorrow to pick them up. Officer said I had to give her reasonable time to collect her belongings with police escort. The entitlement is insane. She tried to get me arrested on false charges and somehow I'm still the bad guy in her mind. We'll update when she comes for her stuff. Something tells me this isn't over. Update 1, holy hell, you guys called it. This definitely wasn't over. Melissa came to get her stuff on Sunday with a police escort like planned, but not before she pulled some stunts that honestly have me shaking my head. First, Saturday morning, the day before pickup, I get a call from my landlord. Melissa had contacted him claiming I was illegally evicting her and that she had tenant rights. She told him she'd been paying rent, complete lie, never paid a dime, and that I was abusing her. Landlord was confused because, well, I own the townhouse. I bought it 5 years ago. He's not my landlord. He's my neighbor who owns the unit next door. She apparently found his number in my contacts, labeled Jim, neighbor landlord, because he helped me when I was learning about property management, and just assumed. Jim called me laughing but also concerned. "Dude, your ex just tried to convince me to evict you from your own house." I explained the situation and he said he'd be happy to provide a statement if needed. Then Saturday afternoon, my doorbell rings. It's Cassie, Melissa's wellness guru friend. She's standing there with sage bundles and crystals. I kid you not. Says she's here to cleanse the negative energy and collect Melissa's sacred items. I told her Melissa could get her stuff tomorrow with the police escort, as arranged. Cassie then tries to push past me, saying I have no right to keep Melissa's spiritual tools hostage. I blocked the doorway and told her to leave or I'd call the cops. She actually tried to blow sage smoke in my face while chanting something about toxic masculinity. I just closed the door. She stood outside for 20 minutes cleansing my aura from the porch. Sunday arrives. Melissa shows up with the officer and her mother. Denise, late 50s, who I'd met maybe 3 times and seemed normal enough. Boy, was I wrong about that. While Melissa is packing her stuff under supervision, Denise corners me in my own kitchen. Starts going on about how I've damaged her daughter's spirit and that I need to make this right. I ask what she means. 3 months rent minimum. She needs time to heal from your abuse and find proper housing that aligns with her chakras. I actually laughed. Your daughter tried to have me falsely arrested. She's lucky I'm not pressing charges. Denise's mask drops. You recorded her without consent. That's illegal. My daughter is consulting with attorneys about invasion of privacy. I pulled out my phone and showed her the state law Derek had sent me. We're in a one-party consent state for recording in public areas, and the doorbell cam was my neighbor's property recording a shared walkway. Completely legal. She sputtered something about technicalities, and then said the most entitled thing yet. A real man would take care of a woman in need regardless of circumstances. You're going to regret not helping Melissa. The officer supervising actually intervened at this point. Ma'am, are you threatening this man? Denise backpedaled fast. No, I'm just saying karma, you know. Meanwhile, Melissa was in the guest room apparently trying to take things that weren't hers. The officer had to keep reminding her that the TV, the artwork, and the meditation cushions I bought were not her property. She kept saying, "But I use them. They have my energy." The best part? She tried to take my coffee maker, a $400 espresso machine I bought 2 years before I met her. Claimed it was a gift to us from her spiritual advisor. The officer asked her for proof of purchase. She said spiritual gifts don't come with receipts. The officer, completely deadpan, "Then it stays." Took her 3 hours to pack what should have taken 45 minutes because she kept arguing about every single item. Tried to claim my Bluetooth speakers were hers because she paired her phone with them once. Attempted to take my houseplants because she nurtured them with her presence. Even tried to grab my throw pillows because they'd absorbed her essence. Finally, everything's packed. As they're leaving, Melissa turns and says loud enough for the officer to hear, "You know, I could have said so much worse to the police. You're lucky I'm such a forgiving person." The officer actually stopped. "Ma'am, are you implying you withheld information from law enforcement?" Melissa went pale. "No, I just meant I could have, if it was true." "Ma'am, I suggest you leave now." They left, but not before Denise shouted from the car that I was spiritually bankrupt and would die alone with my material possessions. That evening, I get a text from an unknown number. It's Melissa from a new phone. "You think you won, but the universe keeps score. That house will never feel like home without my energy. I cleansed it for 2 years and now it's just a hollow shell. Also owe me for emotional labor, calculating my invoice." I didn't respond. Derek told me to keep everything and not engage. Monday morning, she actually sent an invoice via email. Emotional labor, 2 years at $50 an hour for 4 hours daily equals $146,000. Spiritual cleansing of property equals $5,000. Loss of spiritual sanctuary equals $10,000. Trauma from forced relocation, $25,000. Energy healing needed from abuse equals $15,000. Total due, $201,000. Derek laughed so hard when I forwarded it to him that his assistant thought he was having a medical episode. But then Tuesday, things got darker. Update 2. The invoice was apparently just the warm-up. Melissa went full nuclear this week. Wednesday morning, I wake up to 23 missed calls from my mom. Melissa had found her on social media and sent her a long message about how I was an abuser who'd thrown her onto the street. Included photos of bruises on her wrist, probably from her throwing herself down, and claimed I'd been physically violent throughout our relationship. My mom was freaking out until I sent her the doorbell footage. She was pissed. Not at me, at Melissa. Mom doesn't play when it comes to false accusations. But Melissa wasn't done. Thursday, I get a call from my boss. Someone had sent an anonymous email to our company's HR department claiming I was dangerous and had been arrested for domestic violence. Attached was a photo of the police at my house, conveniently cropped to not show them reviewing the doorbell footage that cleared me. Thank God my boss is cool. I explained everything, showed him the restraining order paperwork, the doorbell footage, and Derek's documentation. HR had to do a formal review but concluded there was no issue. Still, having to explain this at work was humiliating. Friday was when she really crossed the line. I get home from work to find my neighbor Tom at my door looking concerned. "Hey man, some woman was here earlier asking about the doorbell footage, said she was from a law firm and needed to review it for a case." My blood went cold. "Did you give it to her?" "Hell no, she seemed sketchy. No business card, couldn't name the firm when I asked. I told her any legal requests need to go through proper channels. She got aggressive, said I was obstructing justice." He showed me his doorbell footage from that afternoon. It was Cassie, dressed in a blazer trying to look professional, but clearly the same person who tried to sage my porch. She spent 10 minutes trying to convince Tom to delete the footage, saying it was illegally obtained and he could be sued. Tom's response was perfect. "Lady, I'm a retired cop. I know exactly what's legal. Please leave before I call my former colleagues." She left, but not before taking pictures of his house and doorbell cam. That night, around 11 p.m., someone egged Tom's front door and left a note. "Karma for liars." Tom was more amused than anything. In 30 years of police work, this is the most pathetic intimidation attempt I've ever seen. He filed a police report anyway, adding to the paper trail. Saturday morning, the real circus began. I wake up to Melissa standing on the public sidewalk in front of my house with a cardboard sign, "This man abuses women and gets away with it." She'd brought Cassie and 2 other women from their wellness circle. They were literally protesting on the sidewalk, careful to stay on public property. Cassie was live streaming on Instagram, talking about standing up to toxic masculinity and protecting our sister from gaslighting. I called Derek. He said as long as they stayed on public property and didn't block access, it was technically legal, but he suggested I document everything. I set up my phone to record from the window and just went about my day. Made breakfast, did some work, ignored them completely. But my other neighbors weren't having it. Jim, the one Melissa tried to convince was my landlord, came out first. "Excuse me, ladies, what exactly are you protesting?" Melissa launched into her story. Jim listened, then said, "Interesting. I saw the doorbell footage. You threw yourself on the ground. Why are you lying?" The protesters tried to argue with him, but Jim just laughed. "I've lived here 15 years. Ryan's been nothing but a good neighbor. You, on the other hand, screamed at 2 a.m. multiple times about your mercury being in microwave or whatever nonsense." Then Tom emerged, in full retired cop mode. Didn't say anything, just stood there with his arms crossed, staring at them. The livestream viewers apparently started asking why a cop was there. Cassie quickly ended the stream. The best part was when Mrs. Patterson from across the street came out. She's 78, about 5 feet tall, and takes no shit from anyone. "Young lady," she said to Melissa, "I saw everything that night from my window. You're a liar and a drama queen. Also, you never returned my casserole dish." Melissa tried to explain her side, but Mrs. Patterson cut her off. "I don't care about your chakras or whatever. You're disturbing our peaceful neighborhood with your lies. Shoo." The protest lasted about 2 hours before they gave up. But as they were leaving, Melissa shouted, "This isn't over. The truth will come out." Sunday, I get a notification that I've been tagged in a post. Melissa had created a whole Instagram account called Exposed Abusers with my photo and a long post about her survival story. But she made one crucial mistake. She included screenshots of her texts to me from months ago where she admitted to using my credit card without permission and promised to pay me back. Derek immediately sent a cease and desist, and Instagram took the account down within 24 hours for harassment and false information. Monday, yesterday, I get served with papers. She's actually suing me for illegal eviction, emotional distress, defamation. Apparently telling people about the false police report is defamation? And get this, theft of spiritual property. Derek looked at the filing. It was clearly written by Melissa herself, not a lawyer. Filed incorrectly, wrong court, inadmissible evidence including testimonials from her spirit guides. He's filing a countersuit for false police reporting, harassment, defamation, and violation of the restraining order. The protest violated the order to stay away from my residence. He's also adding credit card fraud for the $200 she spent without authorization. She just handed us everything we need, Derek said. Her own filing admits to making false statements, violating the restraining order, and the credit card usage. This morning I woke up to one final text from another unknown number. "Are going to regret this. Cosmic justice is coming. Also, Cassie's cousin is a real lawyer and he's taking my case pro bono because he believes in justice for women. See you in court." Derek ran a search. Cassie's cousin is apparently a tax attorney who graduated law school 6 months ago. This should be interesting. We'll update after the court date. Still can't believe someone can be this entitled and delusional. Final update. Court happened. It was something else. Melissa showed up with Cassie's cousin, Brandon, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Kid was sweating through his suit before we even started. Derek later told me this was probably his first time in court for anything other than traffic tickets. Judge Reynolds, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, started by reviewing Melissa's complaint. The more she read, the more her eyebrows climbed toward her hairline. "Miss Crawford, you're claiming theft of spiritual property? Can you elaborate on what exactly was stolen?" Melissa stood up. Brandon tried to pull her back down and launched into a speech about how I'd stolen the positive energy she'd infused into the house and that her spiritual contributions had monetary value. The judge blinked. "Ma'am, you cannot sue someone for taking your energy. Please sit down." Then we got to the illegal eviction claim. Derek presented the restraining order, the doorbell footage, and the police report. Judge Reynolds watched the footage. Twice. The second time she turned to Melissa. "Miss Crawford, you do realize filing a false police report is a crime?" Brandon finally spoke up, voice cracking. "Your Honor, my client was confused and frightened. Your client appears to check her phone camera angle before calling 911 in this video." Silence. Derek then presented our countersuit, the credit card fraud documentation, the harassment evidence, the violation of the restraining order, screenshots of the Instagram harassment, the invoice for $201,000 in emotional labor, the texts admitting to the credit card usage. The judge looked at the invoice. "Miss Crawford, did you seriously submit a bill for $146,000 in emotional labor?" "Emotional labor is real work," Melissa protested. "Not when you're unemployed and living rent-free in someone else's home, it isn't." Brandon tried to salvage things by arguing the credit card usage was authorized. Derek pulled up texts where Melissa explicitly said, "I know you said emergencies only, but Cassie's retreat is basically an emergency for my soul." The judge had heard enough. Results. Melissa's entire lawsuit, dismissed with prejudice, meaning she can't refile. She was ordered to pay me back the $3,200 in credit card charges plus interest. $5,000 in damages for defamation, the Instagram posts and contacting my employer. All my legal fees, around $4,000. The restraining order was extended for 2 years. The judge referred the false police report to the DA's office for potential criminal charges. Melissa absolutely lost it, started screaming about the patriarchy, how the judge was spiritually blind, and that the courtroom's energy was biased against divine femininity. The judge warned her once. She kept going, saying the legal system was corrupted by Mercury retrograde and that she didn't recognize the court's authority over her sovereign spiritual being. Judge Reynolds had her removed and held in contempt. $500 fine and 48 hours in jail. As they're dragging her out, she screams, "Brandon, tell them about bird law." Brandon just put his head in his hands. Poor kid. Derek actually felt bad enough to give him some career advice after. Tom sent me doorbell footage from the next week. Denise, Melissa's mom, came by while I was at work, left a note on my door. Tom grabbed it for me, with gloves because who knows. It said, "You've ruined my daughter's life. She's a sensitive soul who just wanted love. The money you're demanding will bankrupt her. I hope you're happy. P.S. You're still spiritually bankrupt." I didn't respond, but Derek sent her a formal notice that any further contact would be considered harassment. 2 weeks ago, I get a notification that Melissa had filed for bankruptcy. Apparently, she listed me as a creditor, but also tried to list the universe as a creditor she owed karmic debt to. The bankruptcy trustee rejected it and made her refile properly. Last week, Cassie reached out through a mutual acquaintance asking if I'd consider alternative payment methods for Melissa's debt, including energy healing sessions, aura cleansing, or spiritual counseling. Derek responded with a formal letter stating we only accept legal tender as recognized by the United States Treasury. Plot twist though. Yesterday I get a check for $1,000 from Denise with a note. "This is not an admission of anything. But please stop garnishing her Starbucks wages. She needs that job for her self-worth." Yeah, Melissa's working at Starbucks now. My buddy saw her there last week. Said she tried to lecture a customer about the toxic energies in commercial coffee while making their latte. So that's it. I got most of my money back through garnishment and that check from her mom. The restraining order means she can't come within 500 feet of me or my home. My neighbors think I'm a hero for getting rid of the crazy lady who used to scream about astrology at 3 a.m. Tom and I grab beers sometimes now. Mrs. Patterson brought me cookies last week and said, "That lunatic never did return my casserole dish, but good riddance anyway." Jim still laughs about her trying to get him to evict me from my own house. The house is peaceful now. No more sage smoke, no more 2 a.m. rants about Jupiter being in asparagus or whatever. No more finding crystals hidden around my house to protect me from negative vibrations. Best $3,200 I ever lost, worth every penny to discover who she really was before things got more serious. Oh, and according to Derek, the DA decided to prosecute the false police report. She's looking at possible jail time and fines. Her legal troubles are just beginning. Funny thing is, she was right about one thing. Karma did come. Just not for who she thought. Living my best life now. Peaceful, drama-free, and spiritually bankrupt according to Denise. I can live with that. She told her boss, "My husband pays all my bills while I sleep with you. It's perfect," during their meeting. His wife hired a private investigator who caught everything on camera. I got $500,000 in their divorce settlement. She got fired and blacklisted from her industry, and her boss lost his house and kids. I, 34 male, and my ex-wife Rachel, 32, were together for 8 years, married for 5. We met at a mutual friend's party. She was charming, ambitious, worked in pharmaceutical sales. I fell hard. We had what I thought was a good marriage. No kids yet, but we were trying. I make decent money, not tech bro money, but enough that Rachel could work part-time if she wanted. She insisted on keeping her full-time position though. Said she loved the challenge, the travel, meeting with doctors and hospitals. I respected that. Supported her career moves, covered most of our bills so she could save and invest. Classic supportive husband stuff. The red flag started small. Late meetings that ran until 11 p.m. Weekend conferences that suddenly became mandatory. Her boss Marcus, 45M, texting her constantly about urgent client issues. I brought it up once, calmly. She exploded. Called me controlling, insecure, said I was trying to sabotage her career because I was threatened by her success. So I backed off, gaslit myself into thinking I was the problem. Then came the company retreat in Miami. She was gone for 5 days. Barely texted, said the Wi-Fi was spotty. When she got back, she was different, distant. Started sleeping in the guest room because my snoring was getting worse. I knew, deep down I knew, but I needed proof before I imploded my life. So I did something I'm not proud of. I checked our phone bill. Hundreds of texts to one number. Late night calls lasting hours. The number belonged to Marcus. Instead of confronting her immediately, I waited. Documented everything. Screenshots, call logs, credit card statements showing charges at hotels during her client lunches. I opened a separate bank account she didn't know about. Moved some money. Just in case. The universe has a sick sense of humor though. 2 weeks into my evidence gathering, I get a Facebook message from Diane, Marcus's wife. She wanted to meet for coffee, said it was about our spouses. Diane looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. She slid a manila folder across the table. Inside were photos. Rachel and Marcus at restaurants, holding hands, getting into his car after meetings, hotel lobby timestamps. I hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago, Diane said. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I stared at those photos for what felt like hours, my wife laughing at something he said, his hand on her lower back. They looked happy. Diane had more than photos, though. The PI had gotten creative. Turns out the conference room at Marcus's office was adjacent to a rarely used service corridor. The PI, knowing the law inside and out, had found a way to place a recording device in that public access hallway. The audio wasn't courtroom perfect, but it was clear enough. The audio was damning. Moaning, sure, but it was what came after that killed me. Rachel's voice, breathless and laughing. This is perfect. James pays all the bills while I get to have actual fun with you. He's so clueless, probably planning some romantic dinner right now while I'm here with you. Poor guy. Well, his loss is my gain. The best part is he thinks I'm working late for my career. Meanwhile, I'm working late for this. They both laughed. I excused myself to throw up in the coffee shop bathroom. When I came back, Diane was stone-faced. I'm filing for divorce Monday. I wanted to give you a heads up. This is going to get messy, and your wife will likely be named in the proceedings. I asked her to wait. Just 1 week. Told her I needed time to protect myself financially and emotionally. She agreed, but said her lawyer was already drafting papers. That weekend, Rachel announced she had another conference, Chicago this time. 3 days. I helped her pack, kissed her goodbye, told her I loved her. Then I called a divorce attorney. My lawyer, Janet, was brutal in the best way. Missouri is technically a no-fault state, she explained, but it allows judges to consider marital misconduct when dividing property and awarding support. Adultery, this blatant, gives us massive leverage. We'll argue she squandered marital assets. She's not going to get a free ride. But that wasn't enough. I wanted her to feel what I felt. That sick drop in your stomach when your world falls apart. While Rachel was in Chicago, she was actually at a local hotel with Marcus, according to Diane's PI. I moved fast, withdrew exactly half our joint savings, which was my legal right, canceled her credit cards that I was the primary on, changed the beneficiaries on my life insurance and 401k from her to my sister. Then I got creative. I knew Rachel's company had a strict morality clause. Sleeping with a direct supervisor was a fireable offense, so was using company resources for personal activities. Every client dinner she expensed while with Marcus? Fraud. I compiled everything. The photos, the audio transcripts, the expense reports, the hotel receipts, made multiple copies, one for my lawyer, one for Diane's lawyer, one for myself, and one for HR. But I didn't send it, not yet. Rachel came home Sunday night glowing. Told me all about the amazing sessions, the networking, how Marcus had introduced her to some major hospital executives. I nodded, smiled, poured her wine. We even had sex that night. She initiated, probably out of guilt. I went through the motions, feeling nothing. Monday morning, she left for work early. Had a big presentation, she said. I kissed her goodbye for the last time. At 9 a.m., I filed for divorce. At 9:15 a.m., Diane filed too, naming Rachel in her petition. At 9:30 a.m., I emailed the package to the head of HR and blind copied the company's general counsel. At 9:45 a.m., I texted Rachel, I know about you and Marcus. Your things will be in the garage. Don't come inside. By 10 a.m., my phone was exploding. Rachel called 17 times in 5 minutes. Then the text started. Baby, please let me explain. It's not what you think. James, please answer. I love you, not him. It was a mistake. Please don't do this. I blocked her number. Then Marcus started calling. I let that go to voicemail. His message was panicked. James, man, we need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding. You're about to ruin lives here. Call me back. I didn't. By noon, Rachel was at the house, pounding on the door. I'd changed the locks that morning. She was screaming, crying, making a scene. Mrs. Patterson next door was watching from her window, probably live tweeting the whole thing. James, open the door. This is my house too. I called the police, told them my estranged wife was trespassing and disturbing the peace. They removed her. The next few days were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and phone calls. Rachel hired an attorney who tried to claim the evidence was obtained illegally. Janet shut that down fast. The PI was licensed, the recordings were from a public access area, and the bulk of the evidence was our own financial records. Then came the professional fallout. HR launched an investigation. Rachel and Marcus were both suspended pending review. Their computers were seized, emails examined. Turns out they'd been using company email to send explicit messages. IT found everything. A week later, they were both fired. Marcus for abuse of power and misuse of company resources. Rachel for violating the morality clause and expense fraud, nearly $20,000 in false claims over a year. But that wasn't the worst part for them. The pharmaceutical industry is small. Word travels fast. Rachel's reputation became toxic. Recruiters would view her LinkedIn, but the calls never came. Marcus was radioactive. A married executive who slept with a subordinate and got caught? Career suicide. Diane, meanwhile, was surgical in her divorce. Missouri's laws allowed her to leverage the adultery and financial misconduct for a favorable settlement. She kept the house, got primary custody of their 3 kids, and secured a massive alimony payment. He had to move back in with his mother at 45. My divorce was cleaner, but still brutal. Rachel tried to claim she deserved half my retirement and spousal support. Janet presented the evidence of the affair and the money she'd wasted. The judge wasn't sympathetic. In the end, Rachel got her clothes, her car, that she was still making payments on, and her personal belongings. She had to pay back her share of the fraudulent credit card charges I had initially covered. The last time I saw Rachel was in court. She looked destroyed. Hair unwashed, designer suit replaced with something off the rack. She tried to catch my eye, maybe hoping for some sign of the man who used to love her. I looked right through her. After the hearing, her lawyer pulled me aside. Said Rachel was staying with her parents, couldn't find work, was considering moving states to escape the professional fallout. She wanted me to tell you she's sorry, he said, for what it's worth. It's worth nothing, I replied. That was 6 months ago. I'm in therapy now, working through the trust issues. Dating isn't even on my radar yet. Some days are better than others. Rachel texts from new numbers sometimes. I don't read them anymore, just block and move on. Mutual friends tell me she's working retail now, living in her childhood bedroom. Marcus is driving Uber, last I heard. His ex-wife Diane started a successful consulting firm with the divorce settlement. Me? I'm okay. Not great, but okay. The house feels empty sometimes, but I'm learning to appreciate the quiet. No more late-night anxiety about where she really is. No more gaslighting, no more lies. I know some of you will say I went too far, that I should have just divorced her and moved on. But when you hear the person you love most in the world laughing about what a fool you are, something breaks inside you. Something that can't be fixed with a clean break. I didn't want revenge at first. I just wanted the truth. But when the truth is that cruel, sometimes revenge finds you. Update 1. Didn't expect this to blow up. Reading your comments has been therapeutic? Triggering? Both? Anyway, a few months have passed and some of you asked for updates. Boy, do I have them. Remember how I said Rachel was texting from new numbers? That escalated. She started showing up places. The grocery store, the gym, always with that same broken look like a kicked puppy. She'd try to approach, I'd leave. Simple. Then I found out we were going to the same therapy practice. I didn't find out from a receptionist. That would be a massive violation. No, I was walking to my car after a session and saw her car pull into the lot. I froze. Watched her walk into the same building, same suite of offices. The knot in my stomach was instant. I switched therapists the next day. But the real drama came from an unexpected source. Marcus's kids. His oldest, Tyler, 17, reached out on Instagram. Said he needed to talk to me, that it was important. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a Starbucks. This kid looked rough. Angry. He slid his phone across the table, showing me text messages. From Rachel. To him, she was trying to convince him that his dad wasn't the bad guy, that marriages fall apart, that love is complicated. It was bad enough, but then he told me she had shown up at his high school football game, trying to talk to him on the sidelines, basically grooming and stalking a teenager to advocate for his father. She says dad's gonna hurt himself if mom doesn't ease up, Tyler said. That it's mom's fault he's depressed, that you and mom planned this whole thing to ruin them. I saw red. How long has this been going on? The texts started 3 weeks ago. The game was last Friday. Dad gave her my number, said she could explain better. I told Tyler the truth. All of it. Showed him the same evidence I'd shown the lawyers. His face went from confused to disgusted to furious. She called you clueless, he whispered, while she was, with my dad, in his office where we visit him. Tyler left that meeting with screenshots of Rachel's messages and a promise to tell his mother. I felt bad for the kid, but he deserved the truth. Diane called me that night, furious, not at me, at them. Manipulating and approaching a minor? That was a new low. She was filing for a restraining order on behalf of her son. But wait, it gets worse. 2 days later, I get a call from Janet. Rachel was suing me for intentional infliction of emotional distress. Claimed I'd conspired to destroy her life, that I'd acted maliciously, that she'd lost everything because of my vendetta. Janet actually laughed. This is a desperation move. You reported facts to appropriate parties. That's not harassment, it's consequences. It'll be a pain, but she has no case. The lawsuit dragged on for months, a slow-moving drain on my finances and my sanity. But discovery was a gift. Rachel's ambulance-chasing lawyer requested all communications related to the divorce, which meant we got access to hers. Diane's lawyer, in a related motion, shared new texts between Rachel and Marcus. Turns out they were still in contact, planning to rebuild once the heat died down. One text stood out. Marcus, once I get back on my feet, we can try again. Maybe Vegas? Rachel, I can't wait. James was such a waste of my best years. Her own lawyer dropped her after seeing that text during deposition prep. The judge dismissed her case with prejudice, and I countersued for legal fees, defamation, and harassment. We settled out of court. She had to pay a portion of my legal fees and sign a strict agreement to cease all contact, direct or indirect. Any violation would result in immediate legal action. You'd think that would be the end, right? Nope. Update 2. It's been another 6 months since my last update, putting me well over a year past D-Day. I genuinely thought this saga was over. I was wrong. Quick recap. I was moving on. Rachel was legally bound to leave me alone. Marcus was fighting for visitation. Diane was thriving. Then Rachel's father, Richard, called me. He'd always been a good guy, old school, treated me like a son. His voice was tired when he asked if we could meet. I need to know what really happened. He said, Rachel's story doesn't add up, and she's not doing well, James. Against my better judgment, I met him. I showed him everything. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. I failed her somehow, he said. He told me Rachel was spiraling, drinking heavily, refusing to look for work, convinced everyone was against her. Her mother was enabling it, blaming me for ruining her baby. It's destroying our marriage now, too, he admitted. I felt bad for him, but I kept my distance. 2 weeks later, Rachel got arrested for DUI. She crashed into a parked car in Marcus's neighborhood at 2 a.m. She had been stalking him. Police found a rambling letter in her car about how they were meant to be together. Marcus finally got that restraining order. The arrest, combined with her earlier behavior, made it easy. But the real karma came from Tyler, Marcus's son. He was 18 now. A few months ago, he started a YouTube channel about dealing with family trauma. His video titled, "My Dad Cheated and Destroyed 2 Families," started getting traction. He didn't hold back, and he showed some of the texts Rachel had sent him. The internet did what the internet does. People who knew the story from our town chimed in. The video blew up. 2.3 million views and counting. Rachel's "My husband pays all the bills while I sleep with you" audio clip became a TikTok sound people used to mock cheaters. The viral attention was the last straw for Marcus's mother. The shame from her church and social circle was too much. She asked him to leave. He's living in a low-rent apartment now, last I heard. Last week, Diane called me. She'd been contacted by a production company that makes documentary series for streaming services. They wanted to do an episode on workplace affairs and their fallout. They're offering good money, she said. Enough to pay for all 3 kids' college. But I wanted to check with you first. You'd be part of it too. I thought about it for maybe 10 seconds. Do it. So yeah, our story might end up on Hulu or Max. Rachel's new lawyer already sent a cease and desist, but since everything is public record and we're not lying, it's just noise. The filmmaker interviewed me last week, 3 hours of questions. They asked if I regret how I handled it. I regret that it had to happen, I said. But I don't regret protecting myself and making sure the truth came out. They asked if I've forgiven Rachel. Forgiveness isn't for her, it's for me. It's letting go of the anger so it doesn't poison you. I'm working on it. The last question hit hard. What would you tell someone going through this right now? Document everything. Protect yourself legally and financially. Don't act out of anger. Act out of self-preservation. And remember, the best revenge isn't destroying someone else. It's rebuilding yourself into someone who can't be destroyed again. Final update. I wasn't going to update again, but I owe you all closure. It's been a year and a half since I found out. The documentary episode aired 2 months ago. Broken Trust, When Work and Love Collide. They handled it respectfully, focusing on the systemic issues and the ripple effects on families. The response was intense. My inbox flooded with stories from people who'd been through similar hell. Rachel, I heard, moved to a different state. She's working at a call center. A mutual acquaintance told me she's been sober for 8 months, which honestly, I'm glad to hear. Everyone deserves a chance to get better, even if I'll never trust her again. Marcus is still driving rideshare, but Tyler mentioned he's in therapy and has started to have supervised visits with his younger kids. A long road back. Diane's consulting firm just landed a major contract. The documentary brought her legitimacy and clients. She's a force of nature. And me? I started dating someone 3 months ago. Her name is Sarah. She's a therapist, not mine, different practice entirely, and she knows the whole story. We're taking it slow, very slow. But for the first time in forever, I don't check my phone for her location. I don't panic when she has a late meeting. Progress. The house doesn't feel empty anymore. I renovated the master bedroom, needed to reclaim the space. Adopted a dog, a rescue who'd been returned twice for trust issues. We get each other. I still go to therapy. Some days I dream about her, Wake up thinking everything's fine, then the reality hits. Those mornings are hard, but they're getting rarer. People ask if I'm over it. You don't get over betrayal. You grow around it, like a tree growing around a fence until the metal is part of the wood. It's always there, but it's no longer the defining feature. My lawyer Janet sent me a final invoice marked paid in full with a note. You won. Not the case. Your life back. Go live it. So I am, day by day, building something new from the rubble. To everyone going through this, it gets different. The sharp edge of betrayal dulls into a persistent ache, then eventually into a scar you only notice when the weather changes. And sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I think about that audio recording. My husband pays all the bills while I sleep with you. It doesn't hurt anymore. It just sounds like someone else's life, someone I used to be. That person died in a coffee shop bathroom staring at photos of his wife with another man. The person writing this? He's doing just fine. Thanks for following this journey. I'm logging off this account now. Time to stop looking back. Take care of yourselves.
Your truck is embarrassing. My new man has a real car. My cheating wife mocked me while taking my credit cards. I just nodded and made one phone call. Now she's forced to live in her car. Initial post I, 36M, didn't discover my wife Tara's 34F betrayal through texts or lipstick on collars. It was through our smart doorbell of all things. For context, I work at a fleet maintenance company as a heavy diesel mechanic, specializing in trucks and commercial vehicles. I make good money, enough that we bought a decent house in a nice neighborhood 3 years ago. I drive a 2014 F-250 that's perfect for my job, hauling equipment and weekend projects. It's not fancy, but it's practical and paid off. Tara works in pharmaceutical sales and has always been image conscious. When we met 7 years ago, she seemed to find my blue-collar work charming and authentic. Her words, not mine. Last month, I was away at a 3-day certification course. On day 2, I got a notification from our doorbell camera. It was 11:43 p.m., so I checked it immediately, thinking it might be an emergency. It was Tara coming home with a guy in a tailored suit. They were laughing, obviously drunk. As he helped her find her keys, she said something that stopped me cold. God, it feels good to be with a real man who drives a real car. My husband's truck is so embarrassing. The neighbors probably think we're rednecks. The guy, who I'd later learn was Elliot, her regional manager, laughed and said, "Well, at least the truck matches his job. Grease Monkey needs a monkey mobile." They both cracked up at that. Then Tara said, "Don't worry, I've been using his credit cards to build my escape fund. Another 2 months and I'll have enough to leave his ass and get my own place closer to the office. Then we won't have to hide anymore." They kissed right there on my porch before heading inside my house. I watched the whole thing 3 times, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. We'd been together for 7 years, married for 5. I thought we were happy. Sure, we had the occasional argument about money. I'm more frugal, she likes nice things. But nothing that explained this. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I called in sick to the final day of my certification, I can complete it later, and drove the 4 hours home. But not before making one very important phone call to my cousin, who happens to be a financial advisor. When I pulled into our driveway at 2 p.m., Elliot's shiny Audi was parked in my spot. I parked my embarrassing truck right behind it, blocking him in. The look on their faces when I walked in was almost worth the heartbreak. They were having lunch at our dining table, the one my grandfather made by hand, drinking the expensive wine I'd been saving for our anniversary. "You're supposed to be at your course," Tara said, not even bothering to act surprised or guilty. Elliot stood up, straightening his designer tie. "I should go." "Good luck with that," I said, tossing my keys on the counter. "My embarrassing truck is blocking your real car." Tara's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone and played the doorbell video from the night before. The color drained from her face as she heard her own voice mocking me, revealing her plans. "The doorbell," she whispered. "I forgot about the stupid doorbell." Elliot grabbed his jacket. "Tara, handle this. Call me when he's gone." I laughed. When I'm gone? This is my house. My name's on the mortgage. And FYI, genius, her name isn't on a single financial account. I checked. This was technically true. While we had joint accounts when we first got married, Tara had complained about my financial controlling to her family so much that I'd suggested separate accounts 2 years ago to keep the peace. Best decision ever in retrospect. Tara found her voice. You can't just throw me out. I'm your wife. I'm entitled to half of everything. Including the credit card debt you've been racking up? I asked calmly. Because that one call I made this morning was to freeze all the cards and request detailed statements for the past 6 months. Should be interesting reading. Elliot looked at Tara. You said you were using your own money. Tara ignored him. I need those cards. I have expenses. Like hotel rooms with Elliot? Dinners at places I've never been? Designer clothes I've never seen you wear? I was still eerily calm. The shock was keeping me numb. Elliot's phone buzzed. He checked it and frowned. I have to get back to the office. Move your truck. Sure thing, I said. As soon as Tara packs an overnight bag and leaves with you. What? They both said in unison. I'm changing the locks in an hour. Tara can come back with a police escort this weekend to get the rest of her stuff. Until then, I need space in my house that I pay for. Tara started crying, those practiced tears that never quite reached her eyes. You can't do this. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Elliot drives a real car. I'm sure he has a real apartment to match. Or maybe your parents can take you in. Either way, not my problem anymore. The next hour was a blur of screaming, threats, and finally, reluctant packing. Elliot kept checking his watch, clearly regretting his life choices. When Tara had stuffed a suitcase with as many designer clothes as she could fit, I moved my truck. As they pulled away in his Audi, I made my second important call of the day, to a locksmith. More updates to come. This is just the beginning. Update 1. 1 week later. Things have escalated quickly since my last post. The locksmith came within the hour. He was a gruff older guy who verified my ID matched the name on the utility bills and mortgage statement I showed him, then got to work. By dinner time, I had new locks, a new security code, and had changed all my passwords. That night, I went through our financial records with a fine-tooth comb. What I found made me physically sick. Over the past 8 months, Tara had opened 3 credit cards in my name, identity theft anyone? Racked up over $35,000 in charges, made minimum payments from our joint savings account, which I'd been contributing to for a house renovation, purchased a $7,200 Cartier watch for Elliot's birthday, labeled as Mom's medical expenses in our budget app. I documented everything, then took all the evidence to the police the next morning to file a report for identity theft and fraud. The officer was sympathetic but warned me it would be complicated given our marital status. Still, the report was filed. Then came the barrage. First, Tara's mother called, screaming that I was an abusive monster for throwing her baby out on the street. I let her rant, then calmly played the doorbell video over the phone. The silence afterward was deafening. I'll call you back, she finally said, and hung up. Next was Elliot's wife. Yes, wife. Turns out Mr. Real Car with a real job also had a very real marriage he'd neglected to mention to Tara. She'd found my number on their phone bill and wanted answers. I gave her copies of everything, including the doorbell video. She was devastated but grateful. He told me he was working late all those nights, she said tearfully. We have 3 kids. That afternoon, my lawyer served Tara with divorce papers at her parents' house, where she'd apparently been staying after Elliot's wife confronted him. The papers included evidence of identity theft and financial fraud, a restraining order preventing her from entering our home unsupervised, a detailed accounting of all marital assets and debts, with the fraudulent charges highlighted. 2 days later, Tara showed up at my workplace with her father. She caused a scene in front of my colleagues, screaming that I was trying to leave her with nothing and that I owed her for the years she wasted with me. My boss, who has known me for over a decade, calmly asked them to leave or he'd call the police. As security escorted them out, Tara shouted, "Enjoy your pathetic truck and your pathetic job. I was too good for you anyway." Her father looked mortified. That evening, I received a series of increasingly desperate texts from Tara. "Please call off the fraud investigation. They're talking about pressing charges." I didn't mean to take that much money, I just needed some independence. Elliot dumped me. His wife took the kids and the house. My parents are making me pay rent, can you believe that? Can I please just come home? We can work this out. I didn't respond to any of them. Yesterday I had the most interesting visitor, Elliot's wife Rachel. She brought coffee and asked if we could talk. She'd filed for divorce and wanted to compare notes to make sure neither of us got screwed over in the process. We ended up talking for 3 hours, mostly about the pain of betrayal and the struggle to make sense of it all. "Nice truck, by the way," she said as she was leaving. My dad was a mechanic. He always said you can tell a lot about a person by how they maintain their vehicle. This morning, Tara's lawyer called mine. Apparently she wants to settle quickly and quietly. My lawyer thinks the fraud charges have her spooked, as they should. The detective handling the case called yesterday to say they're building a solid case. I'll update again after the settlement meeting next week. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. Update 2. The settlement meeting and surprises. The settlement meeting was scheduled at my lawyer's office. I arrived early, my stomach in knots despite knowing I had the upper hand legally. What I didn't expect was to find Tara already there, looking nothing like the polished, confident woman I'd married to. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, her designer clothes replaced by jeans and a plain sweater. The dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't been sleeping well. As soon as she saw me, she tried to approach, but my lawyer smoothly intervened, directing me to our side of the conference table. Tara's attorney, a stern woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, gave me a curt nod. Before we could begin, Tara's phone rang. She glanced at it, grimaced, and silenced it. This happened 3 more times during the first 30 minutes of the meeting. Each time, her face grew more anxious. The settlement discussions were surprisingly straightforward. Given the evidence of financial fraud and identity theft, Tara's position was weak. Her lawyer knew it and had apparently advised Tara to accept a settlement that was more than fair. I would keep the house and my retirement accounts. She would keep her personal belongings, and we agreed she would continue making payments on her leased Lexus that I had been covering. We would split the legitimate marital debt 50-50, but she would assume 100% responsibility for the fraudulent credit card charges. Just as we were wrapping up, Tara's phone rang again. This time she excused herself to take the call. Through the glass wall of the conference room, I could see her face crumble as she listened to whoever was on the other end. When she returned, she was visibly shaken. "Can we take a short break?" her lawyer requested. During the break, I overheard snippets of an intense conversation between Tara and her attorney. "Repossessed this morning. Missed 3 payments. Credit score is tanked. Need a co-signer." When we reconvened, Tara looked defeated. She signed the settlement agreement without further negotiation. As we were gathering our papers to leave, she asked if she could speak to me privately. Against my better judgment, I agreed, with our lawyers waiting just outside. "They're threatening to take my car," she said, her voice small. "The leasing company called during our meeting. Apparently the last 3 payments bounced." I said nothing, waiting for her to continue. Elliot had promised to help with the payments after everything happened, but he ghosted me completely. His wife took him for everything in their divorce. "That's unfortunate," I said neutrally. "I need a favor," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Just a small loan until I get back on my feet. Just enough for a down payment on a used car. I can't get to work without one." "What happened to your escape fund?" I asked. "The one you were building with my credit cards?" She flinched. "I had to use it for legal fees and to pay my parents back for letting me stay with them." And where are you staying now? I was curious despite myself. A coworker's couch, she admitted, but she wants me out by the end of the month. I thought about it for a moment. Part of me wanted to tell her exactly where she could go, but another part, the part that remembered the good times before everything fell apart, felt a twinge of pity. I have a better idea, I finally said. I know someone selling a car. It's not fancy, but it runs well and it's cheap. No loan needed. Her eyes lit up with hope. Really? That would be... Thank you. Don't thank me yet, I said. It's not a gift. You'll work it off. Work it off? How? I explained that a buddy of mine owned a small cleaning company that needed part-time help on weekends. The pay wasn't great, but it was something. And after 6 months of consistent work, the car would be hers free and clear. A cleaning company? She repeated, her voice tinged with disgust. You want me to be a maid? And just like that, any remaining sympathy I had evaporated. No, Tara, I don't want you to be anything. I was trying to help, but clearly some jobs are beneath the woman who mocked her husband's truck and career while stealing from him. I stood up to leave, but she grabbed my arm. Wait, I'm sorry. I'll take it. The job, the car, whatever. I'm desperate. That's not my problem anymore, I said, removing her hand from my arm. Good luck with everything. As I walked out, my lawyer gave me an approving nod. Tara's attorney just looked tired. Later that day, I got a call from the detective handling the fraud case. Despite the divorce settlement, the DA was moving forward with charges. The investigation revealed she had used the fraudulent cards during our trips to neighboring states, which bumped it to federal charges. Tara would be arrested the following morning. I felt strangely empty at the news. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was simply justice running its course. That evening I got a text from Rachel, Elliot's ex-wife. Heard the news? How are you holding up? We made plans to meet for coffee that weekend. More updates soon. Final update. 6 months later. It's been just over a year since my world turned upside down, and I think it's time for a final update. Tara pled guilty to reduced charges of credit card fraud and identity theft. She got 3 years of probation, mandatory financial counseling, and 500 hours of community service. As part of her plea deal, the court formally ordered the restitution payments we had already agreed to in our settlement, plus additional interest and fees. The irony? Her community service assignment is picking up trash along the highway, often in the same areas where I drive my truck for work. Sometimes I see her in that bright orange vest, and it's hard to reconcile that person with the woman who once sneered at my embarrassing vehicle. After her arrest made the local news, Tara lost her pharmaceutical sales job. Turns out companies don't like having felons representing their brand to doctors. She tried to find similar work but kept running into the same problem. Her crime was financial fraud, and sales jobs require handling company funds and expense accounts. Last I heard, she's working as a server at a diner on the edge of town. She's living in a studio apartment that her parents help subsidize. The court garnishes 25% of her wages for restitution payments to me, which will continue for approximately the next 8 years. Her parents, who initially treated me like I was the villain, have come around. Her father actually called to apologize. We raised her better than this, he said gruffly. Always gave her everything she wanted. Maybe that was the problem. As for me, life has taken some unexpected turns. The fleet maintenance company I worked for offered me a partnership track after our biggest client specifically requested me as their account manager. My boss later told me they were impressed by my professionalism during the whole divorce drama. I'm still in our house, though it feels different now. I've remodeled the kitchen, something Tara always wanted but we could never afford, while she was secretly spending thousands on her affair. The most surprising development has been my relationship with Rachel, Elliot's ex-wife. What started as mutual support through similar trauma has grown into something more. We've been dating for 4 months now. She's a kindergarten teacher with a wicked sense of humor and 3 amazing kids who think my truck is the coolest thing ever. I've been teaching her 12-year-old son basic mechanics on the weekends. Last month I ran into Elliot at a gas station. He was driving a used Hyundai instead of his precious Audi. Apparently Rachel got that in their divorce. He couldn't meet my eyes and quickly paid for his gas and left. 2 weeks ago, I was at the diner where Tara works. I didn't know she worked there. I was meeting a client who suggested the place. When she saw me walk in with my client and realized she would have to serve us, her face went through about 5 different emotions in 3 seconds. To her credit, she handled it professionally. She called me sir, took our orders without commentary, and kept our coffee cups filled. My client had no idea about our history. As we were paying, Tara finally spoke directly to me. "The truck looks good. New paint job?" "Just a good detail and wax," I replied. "Takes maintenance to keep things running, right?" She nodded, understanding the double meaning. I'm learning that the hard way. When I left, I tipped her generously, not out of pity, but because the service was good and everyone deserves fair compensation for honest work. Yesterday, my lawyer forwarded me documents from the court case. Tara had petitioned to reduce her restitution payments, claiming financial hardship. The judge denied her request, citing her pattern of prioritizing luxury over responsibility. Rachel asked me if I felt vindicated by how everything turned out. I had to think about it. "It's not about winning," I finally said. "It's about consequences. Tara chose to mock me, cheat on me, and steal from me instead of either working on our marriage or leaving honestly. Now she's living with the results of those choices." As I write this final update, I'm sitting in my garage, working on a vintage motorcycle that Rachel's father left her when he passed. My embarrassing truck is parked next to it, recently serviced and running perfectly. Out the window, I can see Rachel and her kids playing in the backyard that Tara always complained was too small for entertaining. Tara wanted a man with a real car. Now she drives a weathered Honda Civic between her tiny apartment, the diner, and her community service assignments. Her Instagram, which a mutual friend still follows, has gone from designer outfits and expensive restaurants to inspirational quotes about rebuilding and finding strength. As for me, I'm exactly who I've always been, a mechanic who drives a truck, lives within his means, and values honesty above appearances. The difference is now everyone else can see the value in that too. Sometimes the best revenge isn't anything you do. It's simply removing yourself from the equation and letting natural consequences take their course.